Hi. Sometimes in terms of consumer surplus, producer surplus, you aren't just asked to identify the letters in the box. You are sometimes given numbers like the one you can see here, 11, 6, and 1, and you are asked to calculate the consumer surplus, or the producer surplus, or the total surplus, and sometimes the deadweight loss. Remember, these calculations follow a standard mathematical rule, and those are the rules that we will be applying today. So if you are given the numbers and you are asked to calculate the consumer surplus, here is what you do. We know consumer surplus is the area above the price line and below the demand curve. Above the price line and below the demand curve. You can see that looks like a triangle, right? It does look like a triangle. And in math, there's a formula for the calculation of the area of a triangle. So we have to calculate the area of this triangle. And here is the formula. It is half times the base, the height. So once you know this formula and you are familiar with your numbers, the calculation becomes much easier. Here is what you do. So let's put the numbers in. We have our half, and the base of this is 11 minus 6. Okay, that's the base of your triangle. 11 minus 6, that gives you 5. I'm going to write the little 5 here. Okay, so put the 5 in here times the height. Well, from 0 here, 0 to 20, that is the height of your triangle. It is a height, it's 20. Okay, so times 20. So you put all your numbers in the formula. It becomes easier now. 5 times 20, it's 100. Half of 100. Answer here is 50. I'm going to repeat that. 5 times 20 is 100. Half of 100 is 50. So there you have it. That is your consumer surplus from a graph of this type. Next is a producer surplus. We're going to, if you pay attention to the graph, you probably notice that the producer surplus is likely to be the same number as 50. Why? Because the area of this triangle is almost the same as the area of this triangle. Yeah? So let's work it out. So here we have two producer surplus. Half of 6 minus 1 is 5 times the distance between 0 and 20, which is the height of your triangle. This height here is 20. 5 times 20, it's 100. Half of 100 is 50. So you can see your producer surplus and your consumer surplus have been worked out for you. In the exam, you might be asked, what is the total surplus? And that's the easiest part. And you should be smiling when you work this out, because you've already worked out the consumer surplus and the producer surplus. So you have the formula total surplus, which is number 3. Total surplus, we know, is consumer surplus plus producer surplus. Therefore, it will be this plus that. 50 plus 50, and that will be 100. So that is your total surplus. This is the overall welfare to society when transaction in this market occurs. There's one more thing that we have to bear in mind. Sometimes the government may impose a tax, and again, following the rules of mathematics, you can easily work out the level of tax. For example purposes, I'm just going to put a line through here. Let's say we have this here, and let's put, for example purposes, we put 8, and let's say we put 3. And as a result of that, let's say quantity has gone down by half. Say if you have these numbers in your exam and you are asked to calculate the tax is going to be this area here. Okay? And either you can just look at it and take the distance from here, from 3 to 8, which is 5, And take the distance between 0 and 10, which is 10. So 5 times 10, the tax here is going to be 5 times 10, which is 50. Okay? What about if you are asked to calculate the deadweight loss, which is this area here? This area. Now, this area can also be calculated using half the base times the height. So I'm going to work out the deadweight loss over here. So the deadweight loss would be equal to, again, half of the base times the height. So we can work out the distance between here and here, which is 8 minus 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. So that would be half times 5 times, let's look at the distance here. The height of this triangle is from here to here. So that's 20 minus 10, and that's 10. So your 10 here, and this also is going to give you 50. Sorry, half of that. So half of 50 is going to be 25. So the deadweight loss here is 25, as you can see it. So it's quite straightforward to work it out. In summary, here is what is happening. You have a number assigned to the purchases that consumers have made. You have a number assigned to the quantity that has been sold in the market. And you have different numbers in between. So for all these numbers, in case you are asking the exam to calculate all these things that we've gone through, here is all you have to bear in mind. Sometimes the consumer surplus amount is the same as the producer surplus amount. And most of the time, the deadweight loss is a very small number, depending on what numbers have been given to you in a graph. Deadweight loss would always be measured the same way as these triangles here. So you can see there are 4 different triangles. The overall total surplus, which is a bigger triangle. And then you have a much smaller triangle, which is the consumer surplus here, the initial consumer surplus. Then you have the producer surplus, and then the final one is the deadweight loss triangle, which is the one here. So those are the things that you bear in mind as you do this calculation. Of course, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to explain them further. All the best in your next exam. Take care.